This story is from a place of Bihar called Patna. The story is about Shehnaz and Jafaruddin. Shehnaz grew up in Patna, surrounded by her loving family. As she blossomed into a young woman, her parents decided it was time to find her a suitable husband. They wanted someone who was not only well-educated, but also well-settled. A man who could give Shehnaz a life of comfort and happiness. After a long search, they found Jafaruddin, a young man from Lakhisarai, a town not far from Patna. Jafaruddin was an electrical engineer who had secured a prestigious job in Saudi Arabia. This was seen as a golden opportunity, a sign that he was capable of providing a prosperous future. The proposal was put forth, and Shehnaz's parents agreed it was a perfect match. The wedding was a grand celebration, filled with joy and the promise of a bright future. After the marriage, Shehnaz and Jafaruddin's life together began on a sweet note. The couple seemed happy, and life went on smoothly for a while. As time passed, Jafaruddin decided to leave his job in Saudi Arabia. He moved to Noida with Shehnaz and their 2 young sons, seeking a fresh start closer to home. For 2 years they lived in Noida, adjusting to the rhythm of their new life. But as May approached, bringing with it the festival of Eid, Jafaruddin suggested it was time for a visit home. They had not been back to Patna for a long time, and with Eid on the horizon, it felt like the perfect occasion. Besides, Jafaruddin had built a new house right next to Shehnaz's parents' home, using the money he had carefully saved during his years in Saudi Arabia. The thought of celebrating Eid in their new home filled them with joy. On the 1st of May, they boarded a flight from Delhi to Patna, filled with excitement. The next day, on the evening of the 2nd of May, Jafaruddin took their sons out for a bit of shopping, perhaps to buy some special treats or gifts for the upcoming celebration. Later that night, Shehnaz prepared a lavish dinner, including Jafaruddin's favorite, chicken biryani. And then he ate dinner with his wife and children and then went to sleep. Early the next morning, his elder son woke up before everyone else. Feeling uneasy, he went to his father's room. When he opened the door, what he saw was truly terrifying. His father's lifeless body was sprawled out on the floor. Beside him lay a pressure cooker, smeared with blood. It looked like the pressure cooker had been used as a weapon. Overcome with shock, the son screamed in horror, his voice echoing through the house. His wife, Shehnaz, and the rest of the family rushed to the scene. Neighbors soon gathered, and the news spread like wildfire. It was the day before Eid, a time meant for joy, but the house was now filled with deep sorrow. The celebration turned into a time of mourning. Without delay, the police were called. They arrived quickly, took custody of the body, and sent it for a post-mortem examination. The investigation began immediately. The police started questioning family members and neighbors to gather clues. When they spoke to the son, he told them that he had woken up early and went to his father's room, only to find him lying there, lifeless. They asked Shehnaz to explain what had happened that night. She started by saying that earlier in the evening, they had gone out to do some Eid shopping together. After returning home, they had dinner as a family, and everything seemed normal. But at around 3 a.m., she was suddenly awakened by strange noises. Curious and worried, she got out of bed and stepped out of her room to check what was going on. As soon as she walked out, 2 strangers suddenly attacked her. They grabbed her roughly, snatching her jewelry, and then one of them covered her nose with their hand. She could feel that there was something strange on their hand, and before she knew it, everything went black as she lost consciousness. Initially, the police suspected that this was a case of robbery, but something didn't add up. Except for Shehnaz's necklace, nothing else in the house was stolen. This made the police suspicious. Why would the intruders kill someone without taking anything of value? The officers began to consider a different motive. This suggests that the attackers didn't come just to rob the house, but might have had a personal grudge or enmity, one of the officers remarked. The police then started questioning everyone closely, trying to dig up any possible leads. They discovered that Jafaruddin, Shehnaz's husband, had spent most of his life outside of Bihar, working far from home. Because of this, he didn't have many acquaintances or friends in the area, and as far as anyone knew, he didn't have any enemies either. The police couldn't help but find it strange that despite the money and jewelry in the house, none of it had been taken. This odd detail made them suspect that something wasn't right. To dig deeper, they began carefully examining all the possible ways someone could have entered or exited the house. After thoroughly checking, they realized that the only way to enter the house was through the main door. There were no other entrances or exits. What made things even more curious was that there were no signs of forced entry. No doors were broken, no windows shattered, and no locks tampered with. It seemed that whoever entered the house did so without any struggle, suggesting that the person might have been familiar with the household. This raised the unsettling possibility that the intruder could have been someone from within the family. Despite questioning Shehnaz and other family members repeatedly, the police were still at a loss for clear answers. They were determined to find some lead, so they asked Shehnaz for her mobile phone to further their investigation. Without any hesitation, Shehnaz handed over her iPhone, which she mentioned was a gift from her husband some time ago. The police carefully examined the phone and checked its call records, hoping to find a clue. But even after going through the details, they came up empty-handed. The police were baffled, but they couldn't shake the suspicion that someone within the family might be involved in the crime. The two children were still too young to be capable of such an act, so they were quickly ruled out as suspects. Even though it's possible for crimes to be committed at any age, the police's main focus turned toward Shehnaz. They decided to investigate quietly and subtly, talking to neighbors and questioning relatives without raising too much attention. They asked about everything, from the time Shehnaz and Jafaruddin got married, to why Jafaruddin had left Saudi Arabia and returned to India, and why he had chosen to live in Noida. During their inquiries, the police learned something curious. This was the first time in 2 years that Jafaruddin had come to celebrate Eid near Shehnaz's family home. They couldn't help but wonder why he had decided to do so this year. As the investigation went on, more details began to surface. Stories about Shehnaz and her past that added layers of complexity to the case. It was discovered that during her school years, Shehnaz had a boyfriend named Kamal. They spent a lot of time together, and soon their friendship became the talk of the entire school. In a somewhat movie-like manner, they would walk around holding hands, which many people disapproved of. The issue eventually reached the teachers, and then the principal. It was found that there was a boy and a girl openly showing their love, which was affecting the other students. The principal called both sets of parents and explained that their children's behavior was setting a bad example for others. He warned them that this was the time for studying, not for such activities. However, when the two didn't change their behavior, they were expelled from school. After this, Shehnaz joined another school, while Kamal continued his studies elsewhere for a while. Kamal later decided to start working to save enough money to marry Shehnaz. They were both out of school, and this story became known to the neighbors and everyone around. In the end, Shehnaz's family discovered her relationship with Kamal. But there was a big problem: money. Shehnaz's family was well off, while Kamal came from a much poorer background. Because of this, Kamal was not seen as a suitable match for marriage, especially since he wasn't doing anything noteworthy with his life. No parent would want to marry their daughter to someone who was unemployed. As time went on, the family became increasingly worried that Shehnaz's connection with Kamal might hurt her chances of getting married to someone else. So, they began searching for a good match for Shehnaz. But finding someone nearby was tough, because everyone in the neighborhood knew about her history with Kamal from their school days. Finally, through some relatives, they learned about a boy named Jafaruddin. He was an electrical engineer working in Saudi Arabia, earning a good income, and had a solid reputation. When his family met Shehnaz, they quickly agreed to the proposal. The marriage was arranged, and Shahnaz and Jafaruddin were married. After the marriage, Jafaruddin returned to Saudi Arabia, leaving Shahnaz behind. Meanwhile, Shahnaz reconnected with her childhood love, Kamal. Slowly, they grew close again. Jafaruddin spent most of the year, 11 months, in Saudi Arabia, and only came back home for 1 month during vacations, so he stayed unaware of what was happening. During this time, Shahnaz had 2 sons. Since Jafaruddin couldn't bring his family to Saudi Arabia, he decided to buy a piece of land next to his in-laws' house and built a lovely home there. His idea was for his wife and sons to live there, and if they ever needed help, the in-laws would be right next door. With this in mind, he bought the land and built the house. As time went on, Shahnaz and Kamal's love grew stronger. Kamal would come to her house and spend time with her. As time went by, Shahnaz's sons grew older. Kamal often visited their home, and though the younger son was too small to understand, he started calling Kamal Abu, father. Kamal even told the elder son to call him Abu, while the real father, Jafaruddin, was still in Saudi Arabia. One day, as Shahnaz was talking, Kamal was visiting the house often. The elder son, who was becoming more mature and learning to tell the difference between right and wrong, began noticing that something wasn't right between Kamal and his mother. He mentioned Kamal's frequent visits to his father a few times over the phone. This led to arguments between Shahnaz and Jafaruddin over the phone. Jafaruddin, already struggling with work, took leave and came back home to speak with Shahnaz. He tried to make her understand that they had 2 kids and a whole future together. But Shahnaz, blinded by her love for Kamal, couldn't understand and started seeing her husband as the enemy. Despite all his efforts, Jafaruddin couldn't convince Shahnaz to see things his way. He hoped she might change, but it became clear that she hadn't changed at all. In the end, Jafaruddin decided to leave his job in Saudi Arabia for the sake of his wife. He made up his mind to come to India, and when he did, he joined a company in Noida. This time, he brought his wife and 2 sons from Patna to live with him in Noida. He decided that after moving to Noida, he wouldn't let Shahnaz return to Patna. Shahnaz stayed in Noida for 2 years, and during this period, Jafaruddin slowly started believing that Shahnaz had probably forgotten about Kamal and that their relationship was over. He felt that Shahnaz's feelings for Kamal had faded. If there had been anything suspicious in those 2 years, Jafaruddin would have noticed, but he didn't find anything. Once he was sure that Shahnaz had changed and forgotten Kamal, he decided to celebrate Eid at his in-laws' house for the first time and wanted to take his family along. They planned to go to Patna on May 1st, and Shahnaz was happy to hear this. Jafaruddin had given his wife an iPhone as a gift, and he was confident that there was nothing suspicious on it. However, he didn't know that Shahnaz was secretly using another phone. Shahnaz kept this second phone hidden from him, and it had a SIM card registered under someone else's name, which Kamal had given her. When Shahnaz was alone, she used this hidden phone to talk and message Kamal, making sure Jafaruddin never found out. For the last 2 years, Jafaruddin believed everything was fine, and that Shahnaz had moved on. Shahnaz was thrilled and felt that she had finally escaped her problems. When she found a moment alone at home, she called Kamal and suggested that they use Eid as an opportunity to permanently get rid of Jafaruddin. She planned to eliminate him so that they could be together, get married, and live happily ever after. Kamal, who had been waiting eagerly for this chance, agreed right away. He had already prepared everything and knew exactly what to do. He explained the plan to Shahnaz, and they were ready. On the morning of May 1st, Shahnaz and her family flew to Patna. That evening, Jafaruddin went shopping for Eid with his sons. As soon as he left, Shahnaz called Kamal and invited him to the house. She quietly hid Kamal in a room while Jafaruddin was out. When Jafaruddin returned with his sons, they all had dinner together, and the sons fell asleep. Shahnaz had a plan to attack Jafaruddin at night, hoping the children wouldn't see anything if they stayed asleep. To put her plan in motion, she started an argument with Jafaruddin about something unrelated. During the argument, she told him to sleep in the drawing room. In anger, Jafaruddin agreed and said he wouldn't sleep with them. But Jafaruddin had no idea that this was all part of a terrible plan. If you've watched our video up to this point, please give it a like and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you. Around 3 a.m., when Jafaruddin was sound asleep, Shahnaz quietly brought Kamal out of hiding and fetched a pressure cooker from the kitchen. They chose not to use knives or other sharp tools, fearing they could be traced back to them. Shahnaz and Kamal had watched many crime dramas where similar methods were used. They decided that using the heavy pressure cooker would be the quickest and most effective way. With one strong blow, they attacked Jafaruddin while he was still sleeping, making sure to get it right on the first attempt. After the initial attack, Shahnaz and Kamal continued to strike Jafaruddin on the head repeatedly until they were certain he was dead. By around 3:30 a.m., with the entire house still in deep sleep, Kamal quickly left the house. Shahnaz locked the door behind him and quietly waited in her room for the morning to come. She planned to wait until her son woke up and discovered the body so she could put her prepared story into action. When morning arrived and her son found the lifeless body, Shahnaz was ready with the story she had carefully crafted. She would claim that 2 intruders had broken into the house, attacked her, stolen her chain, and then killed her husband before fleeing the scene. This was the story Shahnaz had meticulously planned. But with nothing stolen except for the chain and no other valuables missing, it was clear that robbery wasn't the true motive. The nature of the attack and the events that followed revealed that the crime was driven more by personal hatred and revenge than by the desire to steal. The story Shahnaz had fabricated to mislead the police was very weak, and this weakness quickly led to the real culprits being exposed. Later on, the police discovered the other phone that Shahnaz used to communicate with Kamal. The call records found on that phone became crucial evidence in the investigation. On May 10, 2022, Kamal and Shahnaz were arrested. They appeared in court, and their trial is still ongoing. Both Shahnaz and Kamal are now in Patna jail. In this tragic incident, the only loss was that of a poor, hard-working man who wanted nothing more than to support his family and keep his wife happy. Now, their 2 sons are left without a father. The protective shadow of their father is gone, and it's unclear how long Shahnaz and Kamal will remain in prison. This was today's story. If you've watched the video this far, please give it a like, and don't forget to turn on notifications. Thank you.